Welcome to Conversate, our podcast where we engage in conversation. This week's episode, Aaron and Kevin are talking about Psalm 1, which is a wisdom psalm, and it calls us to delight in God's law and meditate on it day and night. So we're going to have that conversation here today, talking about what does it mean to delight in God's law? What is the law? What is meditation? So just kind of unpacking that and making practical applications for it. As always, our goal is that this will inspire you to start another conversation about Jesus with somebody else. We hope you enjoy it.
Hola.
Well, ¿cómo estás?
Muy bien. ¿Y tú?
That was a pretty nonchalant, very good.
That's right. That's right. I was trying to think if I had any other descriptive Spanish words.
You could have just gone bien.
I could have.
If you were going to go, laissez-faire. Okay. But yeah, you're muy bien. It's good.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Yeah, I don't know, whatever. What are we doing here? Is this a podcast? Is this episode 270? It might be.
Yeah,
I don't even know.
I lost track after 250. I don't feel like we're that far past 250 though. But maybe we are. I don't think we're 20 weeks after 250 though.
Is it 260?
That sounds better.
Okay.
Let's go with that.
If it's 270, congratulations, you made it all this way. All right. Well, what do you want to talk about? You would think this far in we'd have this figured out. Hey, this weekend, my kids. Oh, I shouldn't talk about it. Well, I already started. I won't say too many things. I don't want to embarrass them. Ooh. My kids are really creative, and they have been making a TV show. They have the set, the costumes, characters. They video it, and I help them edit it, and it's awesome. Actually, it's really cool. It's called Ninja Master.
I was just going to ask what the premise of the show is.
All right, Ari, the youngest, is a ninja master.
Okay.
And Phoebe, his older sister, is training to be a ninja. So he trains her. And at first she's not very good. Like she can't do pull-ups and things like that. She can't dodge Nerf darts that are being shot at her.
Sure.
So she just gets shot a bunch. But they slow-mode Ari, like Matrix style, like dodging stuff. I'm like, holy smokes, kid. This is funny.
So we got a little bit of a, I'm getting Mr. Miyagi vibes.
Yeah, I don't know where they come. I don't know. They read a lot of books. I guess that's where they know stuff from. So, anyway, yeah, fun. It's a fun time to be alive.
Sure. Well, I was thinking that too, actually, because like we're not there in our household trajectory at this point where the kids are creative and collaborative enough to pull something like that off. Yeah. But I remember as being a young, kid with a number of siblings, like doing talent shows and things, like this little family entertainment time. Yeah. We have not yet hit that.
Yeah. And the eldest is, I don't think she's in a couple of scenes, but I don't think she really wants to be in it, but she is the absolute orchestrator and designer of everything. It's very firstborn-ish, in that I have one older brother, and when we were younger, we would build forts a lot, snow forts, blanket forts, all that stuff. And the running joke always, like as we got older, was that I never got to build. I just had to get the stuff.
Retrieve. I'm a hireling. Yeah, I'm the labor force.
Gopher.
Yeah, gopher.
I don't know if you can hear those bells. I opened my window.
Oh, yeah, they are much louder in our earphones today.
Yeah. I don't know if the microphones pick it up or not. Yeah. But
let us know.
Welcome to the time that it is.
That's right. Which actually, even in real time,
17 minutes after, whatever.
It's very peculiar time. Do you know the deal with that? I mean, okay.
It's broken.
That explains it. No, but these are the bells that were on the original 1867 historic St. Peter and Paul Lutheran Church of Hancock.
Yeah.
Michigan.
And there's German words printed on them. Hoffnung, something, and Glaube. Faith, hope, and love.
Oh, nice.
So if you look at them, they've got faith, hope, and love in German stamped on them. And I've seen pictures of them being put in the steeple in Hancock with horse and pulley and stuff. Like, it's crazy. And then I've seen pictures of them being taken out of that bell tower with like a crane. That'd be a cool side by side. I don't know where
the before and after.
Yeah.
Or do you know if they're from Germany?
I think so.
Wow, so they were like built in Germany and shipped over? Or was it German ingenuity?
Somebody who knows
on this side
more history than
also me. Reach out to us. Let us know if you can hear the bells, and then if you know anything about the bells.
Speaking of church history, by the way, some of you may not know, we have a lot of old documents here. Well, that's the point. They're not here anymore. But we had a whole bunch of old church documents from the 1800s, and some of my favorite things were there was a pastor Felcher who was here for 40 years, that's a long time.
That's a long tenure.
And he had these his announcement booklets, so like a little journal type book, and it was the stuff that he would be announcing on any given Sunday or whatever. VBS was coming up or whatever like that. So they're all handwritten out. It's just fascinating to open those up and see what was being talked about. A little glimpse into
the life of the church. Well, what happened to these documents?
Oh, these documents.
Them, but where'd they go?
We had them because they'd been in storage here at the old church building for many years. When the move happened over here, a lot of stuff was brought. I think there were determinations made at that point of what was actually significant, what wasn't. So not everything made the move. But then everything's been in our upstairs storage here, and we had a couple of like flooding incidents here. One of them was we have 2 upstairs storage rooms, and one of those like flooded and ruined a bunch of stuff in the other storage room. And at that point, like we got thinking, we've got all this stuff, and also it wasn't accessible. It wasn't organized. Nobody really knew it was there. So we wanted to be able to make it more accessible to people. So we actually donated all of that stuff to the Michigan Tech archives, and they so I guess they are the technical owners of this collection now. But that way, like if you are curious about the history of the church, like you can, they're still working on organizing the collection, so it's not ready yet. We'll let you know when it is, but like you could go to the Michigan Tech archives, ask for the St. Peter and Paul collection, or if you're looking for, history of Sunday school or the fraternity we used to have, or certain dates or whatever, like they should be able to kind of pull stuff out for you. And then also part of our donation to them was that we have like a little curated display case that they're going to help us kind of curate a rotating display, so that should be able to have new stuff in it. Because even some of those things are like getting faded and worn because of like just sunlight and stuff. So we want to be able to preserve all those things.
And that Felcher fella, if you don't know who he is, you can see him real easy over in that display area. Is the guy with the rimmed glasses, big portrait, top right.
We're going to put a picture of Kevin in there next.
Big glasses, big mustache.
Grow out the mustache just for that
Glasses
picture.
with a mustache and nose on it. I'll leave my journal behind. All of his thoughts any given Sunday. No, it is cool though. It is cool. And actually, I was just thinking, like, as you were describing the archives over there at Tech, I was like, man, I want to go over there and like check out our collection. Which is funny because it was always here.
I know.
But this was the thing. Even in like when I lived in St. Louis, you have these cool places you could go, or things that are just unique to St. Louis. But you'd never go to them when you lived there. Right. It was always like when someone came around and you're like, oh, okay, we'll take you to this thing. And then you go and be like, oh, that was really cool, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of the same idea. It's always been here. But it is really cool to know. I mean, we have especially in the spectrum of Lutheran Church Missouri Synod churches, ours would, I don't know like what percentile we're in, but I imagine it's fairly top tier in terms of history.
Oh yeah.
It's
Yeah,
very
totally.
rare that I come across other Lutheran Church, Missouri Synod churches that are as old as ours.
Yeah. I mean, there's lots of hundreds, 120s, and that kind of stuff. But yeah, ours will be 170 next year. 160. I'm sorry, 160.
Just like Conversate. Just keeping up with it. We're just chasing that.
Yeah, what's
another? That's 70.
It's another 10 years.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, very good. Well, hey, you know what? Speaking of church history as well, did you know there's an ancient church hymn book?
Oh no, I
collection
didn't.
of songs
No, what's it called?
that the church has always sung for almost
Lutheran
its
worship?
entire.
The Lutheran hymnal.
It's called All God's People Sing. It's got a Technicolor cover. No, it's the Book of the Psalms.
Yay!
That's right. That's
Yeah,
right.
we're gonna be looking at the Psalms for I don't know, 8 weeks,
Yeah,
something
a few
like that.
weeks here. Mm-hmm. And you kicked us off here on Sunday with the first Psalm, which made sense.
It's a good place to start, I think.
Number one. The Psalms, though, they don't move necessarily chronologically, right? Well, especially because, you acknowledged some of the different authors, and I forgot, like Moses sneaks one in there,
Yeah.
that prayer of Moses, which is wild to think back, because that's like, they've hardly even formed the Levitical priesthood, which were kind of like the church workers, which include like the musicians and things. And so that's an oldie. Mm-hmm. That's a real oldie.
Yeah.
But I suppose they were singing even back then. I don't think it necessarily shows up in one of the Psalms, although I don't know all the Psalms perfectly by any stretch. But they sing a song when they come out of Egypt as well. Miriam's song.
Well, Moses has a song there too.
Little duet, brother, sister. Little Ebony and Ivory.
Yeah. But yeah, so the Psalms there are 5 books of the Psalms. And I think your modern Bible will show you that, like at different sections. I think it breaks it down and it should say like book 1 or have a Roman numeral or something. I can't remember the dating of that, but the categorization of the Psalms into those 5, many think is to mirror the first 5 books of the Bible, the Pentateuch.
Interesting.
And so then there's a common. I've got a list of this. I'm going to share it maybe on Sunday, this coming Sunday, or at some point. But there's a common doxology at the end of each of the books, which is sort of like a praise. So it's a similar. So there's they were at some point categorized in such a way to put them together in this manner. So, but then within those books, there's all kinds of different genres and of psalmody, and so I think over the next couple of weeks, over these 8 weeks, we're going to look at a different type of psalm. So this was a wisdom psalm, and we'll get into it. But I didn't dwell. I mean, we kind of talked about. We were painting the picture of what a wise person looks like, but I didn't really use that word wisdom because it's not really in the Psalm. Blessedness, righteousness is. But that person would also be a wise person. Anyways, so we'll also be looking at. I can't even remember all of them, but the lament. We'll be looking at like an individual lament, but then also a community lament.
There's some liturgical psalms, which would be like for parts of worship in Israel's life, specific maybe.
Praise, trust. Yeah.
Well,
Hang
some
on,
about
you'll get
Zion
to
as well.
Yeah.
But and there's what I discovered too in some of my preliminary research as well is like classifying the Psalms. So it's interesting that we already are given a sort of a classification within the 5 books of the Psalms, but then even like further classifications have been made by different people over time, and it doesn't seem to me like there's like necessarily one sort of like this is how they all get categorized. I was reading Luther and Bonhoeffer, and they both categorize the Psalms, but in different ways from each other. And I'm trying to think how Luther categorized the Psalms. It may have had to do with like creation and.
Oh yeah.
No, sorry, this is Bonhoeffer. Bonhoeffer is a little bit more categorical, so he has like creation, and he's got like themes of like forgiveness and trust, kind of like the way we're moving with Luther, though. He actually attached the Psalms to petitions of the Lord's Prayer. Was his categorical method. Yeah.
Okay.
Which kind of hangs with Luther, was always maybe like reinstilling some of those fundamental teachings of the faith, known for his catechism. And so, he kind of saw the Psalms not only as a songbook, but as a prayer book as well. And kind of how the 10 Commandments are this boiled down version of the law, if you will, right? They kind of contain all of the other laws. You could lump them in any of those 10. That's what Luther kind of says about the Psalms, is that they're expressions of our prayer life, but you could lump them all into the various petitions of the Lord's Prayer.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah. But that's just if you've never thought about it, and I think some of this might be new for many of us, like, one, this reality about what the Psalms are, that it's not just like words on a page, like these were sung and participated in like a communal, congregational way. And also that they can serve as prayers for you. So that's very different than like reading the Gospels. Like if you read the story of Jesus, healing somebody in the Gospels, you're not likely to be able to take that passage, take those 5 verses, fold your hands, close your eyes, and read them, and it make a whole lot of sense, right? Because it's a different style. But
I think that's what Jesus often does with the Psalms. Even, I think that's what he's doing when he's hanging on the cross, in his dying breaths. He's praying Psalm 22, right? My God, why have you forsaken me?
Yeah.
Right?
So this is kind of a neat, if you've never thought about like the songs you sing in worship, or maybe that you've heard as prayers, like that's what many of them are. Now there are some hymns that I would suggest that we sing that, again, kind of like reading a gospel, would be hard to pray, because some of our hymnody is more like narrative,
or for teaching doctrine or biblical story.
Exactly. But then you get other songs that we sing, or other hymns that we sing, that very much could be considered a prayer. So this I just offer that to you as a way to expand in your mind your idea of what a prayer life is. It's not always just like close my eyes, fold my hands, and articulate, some prayer that I've memorized. It can also include songs. Right. Songs can be prayers.
Right, and I think that in general, that's kind of what I was hoping to get across in some of the sermon too, where verse 2 of Psalm 1 says, his delight is in the law of the Lord, and on his law he meditates day and night. This idea of like, what does it mean to meditate on God's law?
How narrowly do we understand that, or broadly?
Yeah, how narrowly do we understand law? How narrowly do we understand meditation? Right?
Yeah.
And there is a narrow sense and there's the broad sense. So, I mean, you could literally individually on your own meditate on the 10 Commandments and just think on them, evaluate your life, pray for God's direction, for you to be obedient, to forgive you for the places that you've fallen short. Like you can do that, and you should. But then, so that would be like meditating in a very,
kind of a narrow way,
narrow sense, and the law in a narrow sense. Or you can meditate on God's law all the time, which I think is what you're sort of saying with sometimes we'll talk about this, like having a prayer life. So I think sometimes people see prayer in like a very narrow sense. Like prayer means close my eyes, bow my head, fold my hands, be quiet in this place. But you can also see prayer sort of in that general meditative sense, which is the acknowledgement of the relationship, prayer being the communication tool between you and God, that you've got open access to him in relationship all the time.
Yep. You're not necessarily saying anything out loud. You could be.
And yet you might.
You might. That's right. You could. Absolutely. But there's where it's like, because I think you brought up, like what is like when I'm at work, or like I can't work, or I can't sleep, or I can't, prepare a meal. It's like there's going to be certain contexts where it may be more or less helpful to close your eyes, when you're driving,
Yeah.
right? Or speak out loud. Now, I do like to, for myself, if I'm alone in my car, I do like to speak out loud because I find that just helpful for me as I'm praying. Something about speaking aloud just helps focus my mind versus if I'm doing it silently, I'm more inclined to wander, kind of mentally. But if you're at your workstation and it would be disruptive to do that aloud, then you don't have to.
Yeah.
But you still have access to, the God of the Scriptures, the God of the Psalms, your God.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's actually how Henry Nouwen, that's how he understands, and I think that's kind of the only way. So this idea of meditating on the law day and night, and we're comparing it to prayer in some ways, but Paul in the New Testament will talk about praying ceaselessly.
Mm-hmm.
And unless you're going to stay up all night every night, so like depending on how narrow your idea of prayer is going to basically determine whether that verse is impossible and what is Paul talking about, or if not, we have to kind of open up and broaden our idea of the access that we have essentially.
Yeah.
It's different than the access to these records. They're more accessible now because they're in a place and you know about it, which is honestly the help of, there is something worthwhile in closing your eyes and folding your hands and bowing your head. Like all of those things help us. But it's not as though that's the only way to access God. Yeah.
Yeah, and then spent a fair amount of time in the sermon too, kind of talking about the law of God, because I think that's a helpful thing to distinguish as well. And within our Lutheran tradition, there one of the big kind of core tenets of Lutheran doctrine is understanding God's word as law and gospel, and then what does that like? What does that mean? Mm-hmm. And so the law of God, again, in its general sense, is God's will and His design for the creation. So God has established the laws. And some of that we'll even see like in the natural law that the earth spins around, and then it spins around the sun, and the moon spins around us, supposedly. I'm just kidding. Trying to get that algorithm out there. But so there's those things, whatever, however the plants grow and the birds do their thing. Like there's
laws of nature.
Yeah, there's natural law. So that all of that is like is God's law. It's His design. But also He created humans and created us in His image originally, then to basically be perfect. So that's God's design for us as humans,
and talking
for
perfectly
human
there, you're saying like we are moral creatures, unlike the animalistic, naturalistic world. Doesn't seem to be an evil for a plant to grow above another plant and then get the sun and the other plant dies. Like it wasn't something that the plant decided to do.
Right, because they're not created in the image of God.
Right.
We are created in that image of God.
Right.
So there's this general law of God, and then obviously a lot of that law is specifically recorded for us then in rules and the Ten Commandments. For the Old Testament Israelites, there are also a lot of other ceremonial laws and laws that they
communal laws.
laws that they had to follow.
You might think civic laws in some ways,
which we also still have
Our
a
own
lot of
sets.
that stuff too. There's all kinds of laws on the books that we have to follow civically, right?
And generally designed to increase human flourishing.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. Yeah. So within kind of a Lutheran understanding of the law of God, so it's this general will of God, but then it functions in three different ways. So as we encounter as humans the law of God, it functions in three different ways. Luther would say as a curb, a mirror, and a guide. So the law, when you as a sinful person, or even if you were perfect, it would still do. Hold on, I gotta think about that. Let me start with the sinful person.
Yeah. I think it's
So,
going to mostly apply there. Yep.
So as a sinful person, when you encounter God's law, it's going to curb you. So like the curbs on a road, you're going to run into it, and it's going to keep you, on the straight and narrow, right? If then that's part of God's design, is to keep you from, he doesn't want you, as Psalm 1 says, to walk in the way of the wicked, or stand amongst sinners, or sit amongst scoffers. And so the curb will keep you from doing that. It'll also serve as a mirror, which means that you will see God's perfect law, and then you see yourself in it, and you will see that you have not kept it.
Hence its application to sinners only.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That the curb piece also.
Yep.
I guess.
Yep. Exactly.
So we'll see our sin, and then hopefully then see our need for a savior, right? And see that Jesus forgives us of our sins. And then that should call us to account, that we repent and turn of those things. And then the last one is as a guide. So God's word, His law, functions as a guide for us, saying this is the way to go. This aim in this direction. Do these things. Yeah.
So in thinking about law this way, we are within Lutheranism. It is I think we're talking about, again, a narrowing here of that concept of the law of God, right? So thinking of it as curb, mirror, and guide, generally we're moving into that, us being made in the image of God as moral creatures, and here's these laws that God has given that are designed to lead us to flourishing in our lives with each other's, but also to expose for us, our need for a savior, which is a little bit distinct from that's a narrowing, I would suggest, versus that broader idea of kind of the naturalistic law we were talking about. That's an extension in some ways of God's characteristic, his order and structure. I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah.
So, and here would be a third way actually to extend it, because this struck me. We went through Psalm 1 in my hermeneutics class, one of the first classes I took at the seminary with that one guy.
Who?
Hermeneutics. So hermeneutics is all about words and stuff. And if you
Biblical
need
interpretation.
yeah, and it was with that not David Adams, but the one guy, David, not Maxwell,
Grizzly Adams.
not Grizzly Adams. Anyways, that one guy I was talking to you about the other week.
Did he have a beard?
No, I think he was clean shaven. Anyways,
Grizzly Adams had a beard. Sorry.
it was Anyways, I was struck with in Psalm 1. I never would have thought to think of it this way. Without knowing the Hebrew language, but the word there's different words used in the Old Testament for like the statutes of God, the commands of God, the rules of God. But then there's also the word that can mean those things, but can also more broadly mean the first 5 books of the Bible, which is the word Torah, and which is the word there in Psalm 1. So another broad way to think about it, I think, is when we're meditating on the law of God day and night, on the Torah of God, like, yes, you can meditate on the 10 Commandments, and that could be a useful and fruitful thing for you. But you can also meditate on, I would call it like the story of God, because that's what the Torah is articulating. It has both those commands, but it also has narratives like Moses and the Israelites in Egypt under Pharaoh, and the great deliverer that God is in that narrative when he comes and rescues them out of their oppression and slavery. And so to remember those things, to meditate on those stories, also brings us into the presence of who God is and what he wills for us, and maybe not as like pointedly, but in a different way, I suppose, draws us into the presence of God.
Yeah. Well, I think the line that we have to wrestle with too in that phrase is that his delight is in the law of the Lord. And so this little kind of excursus in the sermon on delighting in God's law as well. And because I think a lot of times we don't,
Well, but see, I think part of our lack of delight can sometimes come again through a narrow idea. Because if I thought that what it meant was to sit on a rug with my legs crossed and my fingers,
Yeah.
and saying as you kind of gave us that very narrow idea to kind of like say, no, that's not it.
Yeah.
Like if that was it, like I wouldn't delight in that. And I think sometimes we come to the table and we falsely make narrow these things.
Right. Well, and even but then so
go
there's
on,
there's
go on.
that piece in the meditation, but then the delighting in the law piece too. It's like recognizing that the law is good because the law comes from a good God who is wise, and he only desires what's good for his people, for human flourishing. So he's never going to command us to do things that are not good for us or for other people or good for the creation. So we need to understand that, but we're just so apt to want to do things our own way. I mean, that's the root of human sin, right? I mean, it's Adam and Eve, right? It's turning away from God's word, which they just did. They just lived into it. They didn't even doubt it prior to the fall. But now after, it's all about, kind of kicking God out and putting myself in the center as the authority and the lawgiver. I mean, we have, I think in our American ideal is that we are autonomous,
Right. That we do get to choose.
And what does autonomous mean? Nomos is the Greek word for law.
Oh yeah.
Auto is self, so self-law.
Self-law.
So autonomous means that you want to make your own law, and that may seem like an ideal, but if everybody is out making their own law, there is no law, right?
Right.
And
this is part of. I mean, this would also, I think, extend to some of the other claims the scriptures make about just the nature of humanity. Because there's some who would suggest, well, probably even whole political parties, although maybe not the dominant ones, that would suggest like self-law, people being able to determine for themselves. They kind of have a idealistic vision of how that would play out, and they would base that off of some sense of maybe the goodness of humanity, and sort of like this is just a win-win. Like what's really corrupt are systems and institutions, but if we're all kind of doing our own thing, then we'll avoid that. And that claim, like you just stated, is at odds with what the scriptures would suggest to us.
Right. Well, and then also if you are the lawgiver, then you also need to be the arbiter of that law, the judge of that law. Like that's an incredible burden that you actually can't handle. So it will actually, you might think of it as freedom, but it'll actually be a burden. You could play that out logically if you want, or try it and see. But that's how it always happens. And so the law of God is actually good for us. And if we understand that God is a good God and wants what's best for us, he wants us to flourish. He is a loving Father. Then, hopefully we get to the place where we at least acknowledge that reality, that he's not out to get us. He's not out to play games with us. He's not out to test us. He's not out to ruin our fun. Like he actually wants what's best for us. But that comes, I think, an acknowledgement of that comes with relationship, and comes with time.
Yeah. Well, and you alluded to that too. Yeah. Like with maturity.
I think. I don't know. I mean, I think that's the case, and I would even reason the same sort of thing with some of my understanding of just even civil laws as well.
Sure. Things like that. As a younger version of oneself, you might have been. I don't know. What's the point?
Yeah,
of that?
pick a speed limit, right?
Yep.
Where it's like, it's merely a suggestion, and I just want to go faster, so I should be able to go faster. But you take the grand scheme of it, and you're like, somebody thought this through, and that like residential neighborhoods, like I got kids that are playing on the road. Like I don't want people going 60 miles an hour on my road. Like my kids run out to grab the basketball that's going. Like there's.
Yep.
It's like, all right, just. Hopefully we can kind of be at a mature, wise place where we go, actually, that's probably better. It's a better, That's all right to follow the law, you know?
But yeah, like I think what you're describing right now is it's the reality that humility becomes part of the process.
I think so, yeah.
To make this Christian system work. If you don't have humility, I mean, and I think this is sort of how it plays out. It can play out in a couple of ways. Like one is you'll have the humility to say or accept this idea that like I can't see all of the things. Because you could look at a law of God and wonder about like why is that important? I don't understand. Like it seems to me that if I was to do this thing that he says not to do, like it's probably going to work out just fine. But I think the idea is just like you described, there are dangers for human flourishing, whether for us or for others, if we do that thing. And even if we can't see it, that doesn't mean they don't exist. But that's a humble thing to recognize that. So you could recognize that.
Well, and I think, and I think we need to have a broad vision of that too, with the when it comes to the other piece.
Yeah.
That we actually exist for the love of other, and we exist for, we exist for other people to love our neighbor as ourselves. So that all comes into play with these laws, you know, because again, many people will say, well, I want to be autonomous, and therefore the things that I do, because this is kind of our cultural norm, I think, so long as the things that I do don't hurt or harm another person.
That's right.
Then it must be okay.
Valid, exactly.
And I'll just tell you what, like, you may be, and I'll just speak boldly, so selfish and prideful to think that your sin that you do in secret doesn't hurt or harm anybody else. But it actually does, because other people love and care about you. And so the things that you are doing are damaging you, and they're damaging the relationships of the people that are around you, or have great potential to. I mean, somebody might use the example of like an alcoholic or whatever, you know. So what? I'm not abusive.
I don't get violent. Yeah.
I'm not belligerent. I still show up to work. I still show up to my kids' activities, but I'm a drunk. You know, it's like, yeah, but that's hurting and harming those generations in ways that you don't even know. I mean, this is the reason that there's organizations like Alcoholics Anonymous that exist for the loved ones that have been hurt and harmed by these kinds of. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, so our sins that we do affect other people. Because if you're sinning in secret, those things are going to affect your way of being in the world amongst other people. And therefore that's going to damage those relationships and not make them flourish in the way that God desires them to flourish. And so, like, you can't just sin and say that it's just your own thing. Like, you're part of something bigger. And so, yeah.
And this is also part of, like, that's a function of our sinful nature as well, is the diminished view that we have, like our incapacity to see things broader, especially outside of us. So like sin is being sort of, Luther famously said, curved in on oneself. And so even if we're thinking about it as like, well, I'm not hurting anyone else. Well, but there's also capacity to impact other people for good. And that's something, again, Luther broke down in when he was talking about sin. Like, there's acts of commission, which is like doing something negative against your neighbor. And that's kind of the realm where you say, well, this isn't doing that. Yeah. But then there's also, he'll say, sins of omission, which is this idea that there are things I could be doing, or I might be, not just could be, there might be specific things that God is knocking me on the head with. He's sort of like putting on a plate for me. Ephesians 2 talks about like good works prepared in advance for us to walk right into. So this is God's call on our life, but these other things may distract us or turn us inward, and so that we're not participating in that human flourishing outside of us. So again, that like it's a humbling thing to admit that, but that's sort of integral for this whole system to work. Yeah.
So I mean, this first law, and when we're talking about, wisdom and being a wise, righteous person, again, that is God's law. That is his desire for you. Now, none of us are perfectly capable of achieving that status on our own.
Even with the guide, that third function Aaron had mentioned earlier. Yep. The idea isn't, here's the guide, now just follow it.
Right. And so, as Christians, when we're reading the Old Testament, things like the Psalms, we see them Christologically also, which means we see them in light of Christ. So when it talks about being righteous and wise, well, the New Testament describes Jesus as the fulfillment of those things. Jesus is wisdom incarnate. Jesus is the righteousness of God made flesh, given to us who are not righteous. And we will not attain righteousness by our own doing. We receive that, we receive that from God by faith in Christ. And then, so Christ frees us from the punishment of our inability to do these things.
Right.
But that doesn't negate God's still design and desire for us to do these things. It's like take the speed limit or whatever. If I continuously, it'd be like continuously breaking the speed limit, but I never get tickets for it, but the speed limit still exists. It's like, keep the speed limit, but I just don't ever get ticketed, I don't know. It's probably not a perfect analogy, but
I see what you're saying.
So God's law is still there for us, and it's still good, and it's the design for human flourishing.
Right. The forgiveness of Jesus is not given to us so that we don't ever orient ourselves to the will of God.
Yeah.
The forgiveness of Jesus heals us and heals the separation that we have from God. Just as that's phase one. That's step one, and it's amazing and it's full. Like, that's incredible that we can be united to God because of that. And by the way, think of Jesus' life too in terms of that, again, acts of commission and omission, right? When we say that Jesus was perfect righteousness, we're not saying it's just that Jesus didn't sin, which is true. He also did. Yeah. It's incredible to think about how much is there in 3 years of Jesus' life in terms of service to humanity. From a physical standpoint, healings and such, teaching, educating, but then obviously in repairing that rift. But yeah, so he repairs that rift, but then he also enables us. He enables us to walk into the will of God, which is flourishing for us and for others. So yeah, I think the speed limit metaphor you're using is sort of like being able to like this reality that you've broken the speed limit and yet you're not going to get a ticket. And that is true. That is true for us relationally with God.
Right.
And we will find ourselves continuing to sin, but God's not going to penalize us by removing himself from us because of that. However, God's law is the way things are. And so there can be and will be consequences for us, both practically, like just in our material life and in our human relationships. But I would contend even, especially when it becomes a deliberate thing. And the New Testament's really strong on that, right? Like deliberately doing that which is against who God is against Jesus. I think at the very least, you're going to feel that chasm that's not supposed to be there, right? That chasm that's been removed for you. So there still are consequences for us.
Just like with that speed limit example, like you might not get a ticket, you might not get the fine, but if you break that speed limit and you go flying down my street and hit one of my kids when they ran into the street, like that you just
this is a life altering.
Yeah, this would mess some stuff up. You know?
Well, and to go wrong with that metaphor, because that's where the New Testament, the way in which it talks about the seriousness of like deliberate sinning, or it would use the phrase practicing these things. Just again, I think the metaphor does work. Like you can speed and speed and speed and never get a ticket and never get a ticket, and you make those hairpin curves, and it's all working out fine. But if you keep doing it, well, you're also likely to probably push it more and more as you go. And there may be someday when you actually do go off the rails and you do crash your vehicle and you do die. And spiritually speaking, again, it's not as though sin does not make your relationship with God, irreconcilably broken. Sin is the place where God meets us to redeem us and restore us and bring us back to him. But if you deliberately, consistently, intentionally go against the things of God over time, like that's the risk you're running is actually spiritual death. Don't run that risk. Please. Don't do that.
Right.
Don't do that.
Right.
Yeah.
And so the way to avoid that is to get to know God, and get to know his word, get to know his law, meditate on it day and night.
And to learn to delight in
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
For your good and for the good of others. So if you can see it in that broad scope, you'll recognize it. So much more to come.
Yeah. Just the intro.
All right. Let's roll for today. Peace, buddy.
Peace, dude.